What is up, gamers? It's Styx here, and today I'm going over my favorite warlock build for Festival of the Lost. So if you like the idea of appointing your abilities into great positions so you can benefit off of their hard work to get yourself loot, this is the build for you. First, if you enjoy it, make sure to subscribe to the channel, but also, if you're unaware, there's something on YouTube called memberships. I'm not telling you to go buy them, I'm telling you that I'm going to gift them to you guys under specific conditions. I've decided that I'm going to gift 5 memberships to my community, live, the next stream after I hit 100 Twitch followers. My Twitch link is at the top of my description, so if you want, get me to 100 there. I'm thinking of making this something I do pretty consistently, where I can target a certain milestone that'll maybe take a couple weeks to hit, we work towards the milestone, and then I'll gift you guys some memberships. The way that they're distributed, as far as I'm aware, is not really within my control. It's going to be based on how much you interact with my content. So if you really want to become a member, use the emotes, access some of my old and embarrassing streams, then you're going to want to interact more so that it has a higher chance of picking you out, since that's how that algorithm works. Our first goal is 100 Twitch followers, and then once we hit that and I gift those memberships, we can decide on another goal. Thank you guys for watching and enjoy the build. First off, the exotic you'll need is Getaway Artist. Its perk is Dynamic Duo. By using your grenade and holding it down, you can convert your arc grenade into an arc soul and become amplified. The arc soul functions as an autonomous turret. This is our arc buddy. Then, getting into your abilities, I'm going to recommend running the Song of Flame Solar Super. This is just all around the best super you can run on Prismatic, and this build doesn't necessarily have a ton of requirements for what elemental type your super needs to be. We can combine this with either Healing Rift or Phoenix Dive. Select this based on the situation. If you're sticking in one place more often than not, Healing Rift can have some good synergy there. Empowering Rift is also really good if you find yourself lacking in certain stats, or if you just want to increase your ability uptime. For the melee, I recommend taking Arcane Needle. This gives us an extra source of darkness damage, as well as having 3 charges, which is really useful for generating strength debuffs. Take a Storm Grenade. You're not really going to be using the grenade itself, but you're going to be converting it into an arc buddy. For your aspects, I recommend taking Weaver's Call, so that anytime you activate your class ability, you will weave 3 threadlings and deploy any perched threadlings. Dealing damage and defeating targets also generates perched threadlings. This is another source of darkness damage and just a source of damage in general, since threadlings did get buffed relatively recently. An option you could run another time may be Feed the Void, but as of right now, the healing on this build is actually pretty good. Our other aspect will be Hellion. This is going to be our third buddy of the build, since as of now you have the Arc Souls, you have the Threadlings, and you have your Hellion that launches solar projectiles at enemies, scorching them and dealing damage. The damage is enhanced by the grenade stat the same way that your Arc Buddy is, which means that we are going to be really building into that, and it's going to be very helpful for us. For our fragments, we're going to want Facet of Courage so that Arc, Solar, and Void abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted with darkness debuffs. This is where we run into the Arcane Needle. You can unravel a target with your Arcane Needle if it's a bit tankier, and then now your Arc and Solar damage from your Hellion and from your Arc Buddy are going to deal increased damage. It also gives you a +10 to your grenade stat, which makes your stats a little bit easier to manage. You have Facet of Protection. You are going to be surrounded a lot in this game mode, just in general. It has little to do with what you choose to do and more to do with just what happens. Also, the number of times I've just been walked up on by a cursed thrall because things are really chaotic. Facet of Hope. Whenever you have an elemental buff, this will be 100% of the time. Genuinely. As long as you are playing like somewhat properly, you will always have Amplified. Facet of Mending is where we get the healing that I think honestly makes Devour not super necessary here. Grenade Final Blows cure you. A lot of these abilities here, they count as grenade stuff. Your Arc Buddy is going to be dealing tons of damage, so you are going to consistently be dealing that. In addition, while you are Transcendent, you will also be getting Grenade Final Blows, so there's a lot of ways to generate healing that are completely outside of Devour. And then Facet of Dominance. Your Void Grenades weaken targets, and your Arc Grenades jolt targets. This is relatively clear, especially when you take into account that when you're Transcendent, if I remember correctly, your Transcendence grenade is Void and Stasis, so that is a way to generate weaken for yourself against higher health enemies. Getting into your general stats, I'm going to recommend doing whatever it takes, and I do mean it, whatever it takes to get to 200 grenade. After that, your priority is to get to a decent amount of super. I'd say stop at 100, and then after that, you can go for however much class you feel you need. My stats here look a bit unoptimized, but after taking fonts into account, I'm sitting at about 200 grenade, 100 super, and about 90 class stat. Once you've reached this point, you could also get some weapons for the extra damage, reload handling. That can be pretty nice. For your mods, after your stats and your fonts, I'm going to recommend Ashes to Assets so you get bonus super energy on grenade kills. You can take a harmonic siphon if you want it, if you're going to use a solar weapon. Use whatever damage resists you think are fitting. For this activity, I've found concussive dampener, melee damage resist, and void resistance to be very helpful. I recommend stacks on stacks to maintain as much uptime as possible on your fonts. Innervation so that when you are picking up orbs, you reduce your grenade cooldown, and powerful attraction so that when you're phoenix diving or using one of your rifts, you pull in nearby orbs. For your seasonal artifacts, it gets pretty simple. You can take flame fiber and freeze so that you can combine solar and strand into one mod. This is a pretty beneficial one. I personally am not using it because the mod is an expensive one, but if you have the room for it, might as well grab it. Threadling proliferation so that dealing strand weapon damage has a chance to spawn a threadling. This gives you more opportunities to turn your strand damage into even more strand damage and to generate more quote-unquote buddies for the concept of the build, which is to create an army of little minions that fight for you. Fever and Chill causes you to easily generate Radiant on yourself using your solar weapon. Pack Tactics, dealing damage with Threadlings increases Threadling damage, and then at maximum stacks, this generates Unstop. Elemental Daze, stunning a champion with an elemental weapon creates an elementally aligned explosion, very useful for dealing damage, and it applies an elemental debuff to them and nearby targets. Shoulder to Shoulder, dealing sustained precision damage against combatants while near 2 or more allies, grants you a damage resistance, very useful. Elemental Coalescence, defeating targets has the chance to create an elemental pickup, matching your equipped super element. Shield Crush, while you have Woven Mail, Frost Armor, or Void Overshield, your melee recharges faster and deals increased damage. That is a less important aspect. The thing we're really liking is while you are Amplified or Radiant, both of which should be almost all of the time, your grenade recharges faster and deals increased damage. And finally, Tangled Web, creating a tangle by defeating a strand debuff target, suspends nearby combatants. Now they're done with the seasonal mods, onto the weapons. For your exotic weapon, I'm going to recommend running the new Malpace. The exotic perk on this one is that you can detonate a large number of rounds embedded in an enemy, and it suspends them. Definitely recommend running it with the Catalyst if you have it. It's mostly just a stand-in as an exotic option in replacement of something like Mint Retrograde. So if you have another exotic you'd rather run in one of the other slots, I recommend slotting in Mint Retrograde and then basically just running the build as the same. Our second option is Tide Apex. Unironically, I was running this because it's the tier 5 version. An actual recommended setup for it, I would say, is probably Heal Clip Chaos Reshaped, but you do actually get a lot of mileage from Demolitionist because you can continuously generate your grenade, keep up your Amplified, keep up your Arc Buddy, and it makes the uptime a bit easier to handle, especially if that's something you happen to struggle with. And for my heavy weapon, I'm going with the Heliatus, which I don't know how it's actually pronounced, but that's how I'm going to say it. I run Envious Assassin and Elemental Honing on it. Elemental Honing is extremely powerful on this weapon, genuinely. You just deal so much damage because you're constantly at almost max stacks. Also with Envious Assassin, you can have like 3 rounds in the mag at once, and I've got Impact Casing. It just deals tons of damage. It's really nice. Another option you could potentially run is something like an Apex Predator if you're wanting to stick with Strand or Solar. For the set bonuses, I recommend running 2-piece Twofold Crown and something like 2-piece Bushido, and that should be really helpful to you. If this video was helpful to you, then consider watching some of my other build guides. I've made an entire playlist full of Destiny 2 builds, all based around different parts of the game. Once again, thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.